Alright, how's everybody doing? So this video is 10 separate Adam Sandler reviews that I've done over the past couple months, and there's no particular order or ranking between these films, it's just random. Like, it's not in any sort of worst to best order, and at the end I'll have a quick title card showing all the scores of the movies. Let me know which one of these movies is your favorite. Why do critics hate this Adam Sandler movie? Grown Ups is a 2010 comedy starring Adam Sandler, Kevin James, Chris Rock, David Spade, and Rob Schneider. Now, you can call me biased because I've seen this film a number of times, but I find a critic rating of 10% on Rotten Tomatoes to be crazy. I'm sure these reviews were originally given when the movie came out in 2010, but now that I've had the opportunity to watch it back and give it another score, I'm giving a way higher score than that. The characters feel like they're actually friends because, well, they are. And I find it's one of those things about Sandler films that people often overlook. It just makes the interactions on screen so entertaining. The starting basketball sequence is great. All the comedy and jokes at the lake house is great. The funeral scene is hilarious, one of the funnest parts of the movie. And I could go on and on about all the iconic scenes and lines from this one. I also like that the ending doesn't take the most predictable approach, makes it feel a little bit more refreshing. My final rating for this movie is an 8 out of 10. What do you think about Grown Ups? Why do critics hate this Adam Sandler sequel? Grown Ups 2 is a 2013 comedy starring Adam Sandler, Kevin James, Chris Rock, and David Spade. Now, love it or hate it, Grown Ups 1 was a smashing success, and I unfortunately can't say that this movie recreates the hype. Now, that's not saying that there aren't some hilarious parts of this one. The bus scene or the river scene, for example, it's classic Sandler and Friends comedy. Rotten Tomatoes hates this one with an 8% critic score, and I honestly can't blame them this time. It's funny, it starts off like it's gonna have a continuous plot, but then it just branches out into who knows what. There's just so many scenes in this movie that have no correlation to each other, and at times it can be funny, but sometimes it's just kind of confusing. I like the first movie, but my final score for Grown Ups 2 is a 3 out of 10, and that's coming from someone who likes Sandler movies. Is this Sandler film underrated? Just go with it as a 2011 movie starring Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston. This movie looks to take all of the expected rom-com tropes and send it on a plane over to Hawaii. And I gotta say, for the most part, it's good. Sandler plays his typical role of getting all the ladies, having an impressive career, questionable parenting, and often irritates his lover-to-be with snarky remarks and rude comments. We have seen all of this before, but it still doesn't matter. There's a good energy about this movie. The tropical scenery is always a plus, and there are genuinely some funny moments as well. The Rotten Tomatoes critics, of course, don't like this movie, but I don't care. My final rating for this movie is a 6.1 out of 10, because it doesn't overpromise everything and delivers on its keynotes. That's all I have to say. Is this Adam Sandler action movie a flop? Murder Mystery is a 2019 action comedy starring Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston. This movie met my low expectations. Aniston and Sandler play this sort of confused tourist couple that just kind of wanders upon this really expensive yacht, invited by a multimillionaire that's connected to an even richer guy. I can actually appreciate the style of movie that this one is going for, which is why I'm keeping an open mind. But just due to the timing and the amount of comic relief, there's no room for any serious tension to build. Someone will get shot and the character's reactions will be to throw out a one-liner, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because that is what the movie is trying to be, but the problem is when you have constant jokes, there's no room for any actual tension to build, which can lead the story to feel bland and uninteresting at times. As far as the comedy goes, I found Sandler and Aniston to be as funny as they usually are, and a lot of the one-liners actually hitting saves some of this movie's rating for me. My final score for this one is a 4.5 out of 10. I'm gonna be watching Murder Mystery 2 soon, and I'm looking forward to see what Sandler Studio can put together there. Does this Adam Sandler sequel deserve bad reviews? Murder Mystery 2 is a 2023 crime comedy starring Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston. I got done watching the first Murder Mystery just a few days ago, and I have to say there is a lot of improvement in this one. Sandler and Aniston's characters just have more of a connection, and the side characters also feel more likable. I found at times the story ran parallel with the original, which was a little bit annoying, since you can feel the intent for the writers to put their characters in the same situation again. But in the end, the script was original enough, so it didn't remove many points. One thing I have to say is the scenery in this movie is beautiful. Such an improvement. The costumes and set designs are just colorful and vibrant, and the whole movie is visually appealing. I also gotta give a shout to the effects because they're not bad. And I guess for a budget of $420 million, I would expect that. Though my final rating for this movie is a 6.2 out of 10. I wouldn't be surprised if they created a trilogy out of this franchise in a few years. What did you think of Murder Mystery 2? Is Happy Gilmore an Adam Sandler classic? Happy Gilmore is a 1996 sports comedy movie starring Adam Sandler. This one eluded me for a couple years until I had a plane ride and saw I had it downloaded. So with cheap airline headphones, I sat down and watched this Adam Sandler classic. And I have to say right off the bat, or club, I see the charm of this movie. I wasn't a big fan of it when I first watched it, but over having some time to think and rewatching some clips, I see what the purpose was and it has a bit of a charm. Sandler, instead of usually being in an underdog relationship in his movies, is a sports underdog. Not making the cut of his hockey team, he tries out golf instead. If I had one criticism, I just think the pacing in this movie is really weird. It feels like some scenes go for a little too long. But Rotten Tomatoes likes this one with a 62% critic score and 85% audience score, and I think my final rating for this movie is a 6 out of 10. As a fan of Sandler films, this doesn't make the top of my list, but it's up there. What did you think of Happy Gilmore? Is Jack and Jill the worst Adam Sandler movie? Jack and Jill is a 2011 comedy starring Adam Sandler. I don't even know where to start with this one. It just amazes me that this movie went through the processes that all other movies do. Drafting a first script, finding the right cast, putting in millions of dollars, and this is the final product. In a way, it's kind of legendary that the main two characters in this movie are played by the same guy. So I watched this movie back in 2011, and unfortunately, you could have heard a pin drop in the theater. Going back and reviewing some of the content, it's actually not as horrible as I remembered. Like, for some reason, Al Pacino puts in a performance here. He must have like 15 to 20 minutes of screen time. And overall, there's probably 1 to 2 jokes that land. And yeah, a part of me just can't help but respect how crazy this movie is. Rotten Tomatoes hates it with one of the lowest critic scores I've ever seen at 3%. And my final rating for Jack and Jill is a 0.8 out of 10. What did you think of Jack and Jill? Why do critics hate this Adam Sandler remake? The Longest Yard is a 2005 sports comedy starring Adam Sandler, Chris Rock, and a million other people. I could fill a whole minute naming everybody off one by one. Just for clarification, I won't be comparing this to the original 1974 film, but I really like what Sandler and the rest of the cast did here. So the one thing I usually ask of a comedy movie is make the audience care. And sure, while there are big laughs in this one, I'm mostly just focused on the story. I'm getting into some spoiler territory, so you've been warned, but one of my favorite parts of the movie is when Sandler's character doesn't accept the blackmail from the guards and doesn't purposely lose the game a second time. That one decision automatically makes him extremely likable and gives you another reason to want the team to win. My final rating for this one is a 7.3 out of 10. I think with a 33% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, it's extremely underrated. What did you think of The Longest Yard? Is this Adam Sandler movie hated by movie critics? The Do-Over is a 2016 action-adventure movie starring Adam Sandler and David Spade. I remember hearing a little bit about this Sandler Netflix original when it first came out, but after giving it a watch recently, I found that it's not one of my favorites of his. I've also liked a lot of Spade's work like The Wrong Missy or the Grown Ups films, but again, I just felt like the characters didn't do them justice here. I think this movie falls into the typical issue of you just don't care about the characters enough. The movie doesn't give you enough reasons to want to see if they succeed or fail. But that being said, what did the critics think of it? On Rotten Tomatoes, The Do-Over gets a 9% critic score and a 42% audience score. So while the audience has a slightly better reception to the film, these movie scores are considered to be rotten. Let me know if you've seen The Do-Over and what you thought of it.
But we talked about this.
It's just I told you I can handle it. Let me get the phone.
Dr. Cornish, I got the plaza.
We can cancel that. Thanks for all your help.
I don't sound like that.
Why do critics hate this Adam Sandler and Chris Rock movie? The Week Of is a 2018 comedy starring Chris Rock and Adam Sandler. Now, I just want to say for the record, I love both Adam Sandler and Chris Rock's work. I would consider myself a fan of both, but this movie did not hit the mark. It doesn't give you time to learn any of the characters. There must be 50 different people that we're supposed to know and care about, but after watching the film, I could probably name you 5 to 6. The movie kind of feels like you've been invited to a house party by a friend, but you have no idea who anybody is. I thought throughout there was a couple jokes that hit, and honestly, maybe a couple heartwarming moments. But yeah, I just wasn't able to get into the film, and you think I'd have enough time with a 2-hour runtime. Rotten Tomatoes doesn't really like this movie with a 26% critic score. Chris Rock and Adam Sandler are both great actors and performers, and I feel like both their characters in this film didn't do them justice. My final score for this movie is a 2.4 out of 10. What did you think of The Week Of?